Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to this week's edition of Leadershipisation, all things leadership. My name is Beth Bergen. I'm a global leadership and communication coach. I work with executives, business owners, managers, and I really enjoy it when I get to work with their teams as well. And we make a difference around leadership and communication. I'm here most Tuesdays live at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We've been talking a lot about expectations, over the last couple of weeks, and that's been all about expecting others to do the right thing. And we talk about it, and often that's the sort of thing that comes up with my clients. And one of the things that's been really bouncing around for clients at the present time is this, it's based around this expecting that others are going to do the right thing. We've been talking a whole lot about quiet quitters and how to manage them. Now, for lots of you, it might be, well, what even are quiet quitters? What are they? Where do they fit in? Well, it's a term that went viral in 2022, and it kind of is used to describe employees who they're doing the bare minimum. They're taking on no extra responsibilities. They're demonstrating no initiative. They're doing essential tasks only. And what that means is that they're likely to be disengaged from their role. And often they're dissatisfied with their role as well. They don't, however, necessarily have the motivation to change that situation. So, one of the keys here with quiet quitters is that they will generally stay in the role. They'll stay in the role, just quietly doing only as little as they can. Now, you might be wondering what's contributed to this? Well, for some people, it's a pushback against burnout. So they're pushing back because perhaps they felt like they'd been overused and undervalued. Maybe it's because they want to be connected, but they're tired of asking. Maybe it's because there's no clear pathway for people's growth. And potentially, if they've been working in a hybrid model or a remote model, working from home, away from the office, away from the team, then potentially they are feeling as though they're not getting enough of your attention. So, what happens is that they're recalibrating with this and they're setting some personal boundaries. And they're deciding, I'm just going to lean back and do as little as I possibly can. And that becomes their highest focus, their personal boundaries. I'll start here and I'll finish here because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I won't take on all of these extra tasks. They're not going to be aggro about it. They're not going to be noisy about it. That's why it's called quiet quitting. And that then becomes their highest focus, which means that their personal ambition, it's gone. They don't have any. What impact do quiet quitters have on the organisation and on the team? Well, firstly, the team is likely to be less productive. And that means that there are usually some financial losses that would be associated with that. It's likely also that it damages the team morale because you've got people who are just kind of sitting on the fringe that aren't getting actively involved in things. There's less engagement as a result of that. And because there's less engagement and there's less motivation, there's likely to be less innovation. There's likely to be less great ideas about how things can be done differently. Maybe the team culture doesn't feel so good either. And what happens is that the leader has to fill the gaps, has to either bring somebody else in or fill the gaps themselves or stretch the other people in the team to fill the gaps so that they can meet the KPIs. What kind of impact does a quiet quitter have for you in your role as a leader? Well, some of us decide we're going to deal with our quiet quitters by becoming a loud leader. They're disengaged. So I'll be in their face the whole time. I'll constantly email them. I'll invite them to lots of meetings. I'll give them directives. I'll check in all the time. I'll make sure that I engage them. And what this comes across as is over managing. And when we're over managing, it creates greater frustration for you and for them, and likely more disengagement. But what we think in our role as a leader, for some of us, this is what we think we've got to do. Okay, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. And very often we make it worse. We make it worse because we're not actually addressing what the root cause is. When we overmanage, the team begins to feel micromanaged, and that creates much more frustration all around and quite a lot of resentment in people. So it's important that what you do in your leadership role is look at addressing the root cause for the quiet quitter. Get curious. Get really curious, because when you're really curious, you're much more likely to uncover what are the reasons here. What are the reasons? And as a result of that, you're going to be building trust. The important thing in your leadership role here with a quiet quitter is not assuming that you know what the problem is. Don't assume that, because it's likely that you won't know what the real problem is. So, some questions that might be useful for you to ask the employee in the process of getting curious. A really great question is one like this: what's holding you back from feeling engaged at work? Now, what I love about that question is that you're calling it out. You're calling it for what it is. You're saying that they are not as engaged as they could be, or they're certainly not feeling engaged. The second one is to ask, what changes could we make to have your work feel more meaningful? Some people are disengaged because they don't understand the why for your company. They don't understand exactly what it is that is bringing you the joy about doing the activity, that's bringing you the success. They don't understand what's underpinning the reason why you do things. So asking what changes could we make to have your work feel more meaningful is an awesome question to get to that root cause. A third question you can ask is, how can we better support your growth and your goals? Remembering what I said earlier, that one of the reasons that quiet quitters feel really disengaged, or can feel really disengaged, is because there is no pathway there forward for them, for their personal or their professional growth. So asking that, how can we better support your growth and goals, is a great third question to ask when you're getting really curious. Now, what's important here is that you allow the team, whether you're asking this all together or individually, allow them to share their frustrations and their ideas. You need to create a safe space, a psychologically safe space for them, so that you get their honest responses. It's not about judgment. It's not about the possibility of any retaliation from you or from the organisation down the road. So make sure that what you're doing is actively listening to their responses. The other thing in a leadership role that needs to happen, if you've observed that you've got a number of quiet quitters, it's really important that what you do as a leadership team, as a management team, is ask yourself some questions, because it's not always the employee's fault. Perhaps the way you're doing things as an organisation or as a leadership team has contributed to this. So the first one is this: Are we stretching our employees too thin? Are we stretching our employees too thin? Next one is, what are we doing to prevent burnout and staff leaving? What are we doing to prevent burnout and staff leaving? And the third one is, how are we growing our teams? We want our teams to have stretch assignments. We want them to be encouraged to step outside their comfort zone. We don't want to stretch them so thin that they break. And often quiet quitters, as I said before, it's a pushback against the possibility of burnout. So it's important that you actually ask those questions, because you may change your approach to how you're managing your teams as a direct result of that. Finally, let's look at some practical strategies to rebuild a positive culture here. Leaders, let's address you first. First thing is, talk less and listen more. One mouth, two ears. You will have heard it over and over again. Talk less and listen more. The second approach to take for leaders is regular feedback. Regular feedback, honest feedback, and open-ended questions, so that you're not asking why or questions that are just going to get yes and no, but it's all about displaying curiosity as a leader, not control. Display that curiosity. Just get in there and be as curious as you possibly can. Organizations, what are some practical strategies for you? Well, it's about developing the skills of everyone in the team, developing those curiosity skills, developing communication skills, and developing that emotional intelligence. Why? Because those three things combined, curiosity, communication skills, and emotional intelligence, you already know, if you've been watching these, that they're part of what I consider to be leadership intelligence. And as great leaders, we want to have that in our toolkit. But also those three things, curiosity, communication, and emotional intelligence, really help to build resilience. So people cope better with whatever gets chucked at them. They cope better with the highs and lows of demand in the workforce. The highs and lows, like all of us in our jobs, have quieter periods and periods where the pressure is really on. Resilience will help your team to deal with that. What can everyone be doing, whether you are a leader, whether you are a team member? First thing is to reflect on your actions. Reflection. It's an important tool for you to have. Reflect on your actions. Make sure that what you're doing is sharing your own needs and your boundaries. And ask yourself, are you doing this for the right reasons? You know, does engagement feel silly? Does it feel silly to be part of the team and actively engaging with them? Or are you afraid of something? You know, is there something else that's actually holding you back? Maybe you think it's not cool to be engaged with the team. Ask yourself that, and just in that reflection, just get an insight, because that will help you to build your self-awareness, and it may be easier for you to move towards meeting your leader or your manager if you understand why you may be behaving the way that you're behaving. So really the key here is communication, it's curiosity, and it's culture. So as the leader, the best way for you to be able to manage your quiet quitters is to demonstrate that curiosity, so that you can get to the root cause, to communicate fully with people, and to encourage that non-judgmental two-way communication. And then finally, to do whatever you all can to contribute to a positive working culture, a positive team culture. I hope that helps you not to choose being a loud leader to manage your quiet quitters, but rather to embrace that skill, that leadership intelligence skill of curiosity, to be able to determine what the root cause is so that you can then work with your leadership or management team to help to overcome that. Thank you so much for joining in today. If you've got any questions or comments, please pop them in the platform that you're watching this on, and we will get back to you as quickly as you can. If you're watching the replay, love it if you put hashtag replay. Please reach out if you feel that there is more that I can do to help you to develop your communication skills, your curiosity, and your emotional intelligence, all of which are part of that glorious leadership intelligence that will make you the best leader you can possibly be. Thank you. Bye now.